Welcome into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast, week number 4 with our leadoff hitter here at Jeff Nadu on Twitter, the big man on campus, giving out winners last week with Penn State. Man, I like that cover. Thanks for the Nittany Lions pick there, Jeff. Welcome on in, buddy. How you feeling?
Doing well. You know, that game, Drew, for whatever reason, it was a complete blowout until about the last 5 minutes. And look, guys, I know a lot of people like these coaches that want to go and try to get a cover. But again, sometimes that can lead to 3 and outs, and it can allow a team to get back in a game. And for whatever reason, Illinois almost found their way through a back door. I mean, they threw the ball about 5 yards short of the end zone as time expired. So sometimes that can backfire on you. And for Penn State, look, I have to admit, Drew, I've been able to – I bet them 3 times this year in 3 games. I've hit all 3. 2 of them have been very close covers. So I'm living on the edge with the Nittany Lions.
Sweating it out, but sure you'll take the 3-0 for the pocketbook, my man. So thanks for the best bet winner last week. We'll get one from Jeff again this week, guys. And the leadoff hitter here, we're talking every single game on the board, 4 different segments. If you're new to the podcast, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, every game on the board. And this is the first section with Jeff, 303, 304, the rotation number. Georgia State, Coastal Carolina on Thursday night. And then we'll hit the top all the way down to the top of the board on Saturday, 335, 336, Florida State and Clemson. All the games in between, those little numbers next to the team name, that is the rotation number. So starting off here, Thursday, September 21st, we get one college football game in the Sun Belt here, Jeff. It is Georgia State at Coastal Carolina, 63 being the total. We're seeing the Chanticleers minus 6.5 point home favorites hosting the Georgia State Panthers. Are you liking anything in this one?
Yeah, you know, this game's interesting. Obviously, I'm not a big standalone game guy. I just don't really like to get too involved. That said, I mean, this is your first Fun Belt game, if you will, Thursday night, standalone. You know, you look at the last 2 years, these two teams, over games, back and forth, kind of up and down. Last year, it was 41-24, and that's kind of, I think, why this total is where it is. You look at Coastal, Drew, they have been an over team so far, 3 out of 3 to the over. They've had some big games where they put a lot of points on the board. Grayson McCall, as usual, last season, he's played well. You also look at Georgia State. I mean, they've been an up-and-coming, high-flying team as well. Both these teams played with a little pace. Georgia State put up over almost 500 yards last week against the Charlotte 49ers. The quarterback, Darren Granger, is a guy that threw the ball a lot. He had almost 500 passing yards in that game. Pretty impressive. I feel like if I had to play this game, I'd probably look towards over 62. I feel like, you know, in the end, these groups are just going to kind of be on the front foot, throw the football a lot. And, you know, history's told us the last couple of years, these teams like to go up and down.
Yeah, I can see a lot of points as well. Rev it up, get up and over the 63 number right now. We have seen a push up from the opener of 61. Friday card here. We get Friday night lights, 4 games, big man. 307, 308, first one up in the Big Ten, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific kick. It's Wisconsin at Purdue. We're seeing the Badgers minus 6-point road favorites, 53.5 being the total. You liking anything with the Badgers and the Boilermakers?
Yeah, 2 teams that have been kind of weird so far. I mean, Wisconsin's kind of had, you know, some up and down, but I think the one constant that they've had is they played bad teams. And the second constant is they've actually put some points on the board. This offense looks significantly better than we've seen in years past. It seems like they still have kind of that defensive prowess. They didn't look great in certain games, and obviously they lost to Washington State, but they're getting there. They're improving. Purdue, it's been kind of a mess all season. I mean, defensively, they've not looked good. And you have to wonder kind of what's going on because they kind of remind me of Clemson, or not Clemson, Oklahoma a little bit. You bring in Brett Venables and you figure defensively they're going to be better. They bring in Ryan Walters, and they have not been good defensively. I don't know what's going on. He had that top-level defense last year at Illinois. You look at last week, you know, I thought they made Garrett Schrader looked like a Heisman Trophy candidate. I mean, he was terrific, had almost 200 yards on the ground. They've just not looked real good. I don't think Purdue right now is really seeing things real well. I feel like they can move the ball. I think both offenses probably move the ball. But if you made me play this game, I would lean on the Badgers on the road here. I just don't think Purdue's very good. Probably won't be getting into this game, but Purdue looks like they have some major issues.
Yeah, we got 4 games on Friday to choose from. Next one up, 7:30 Eastern, NC State in Virginia. We're seeing the Wolfpack -9.5. There's a -10 out there at DraftKings, 48.5 being the total. We've seen both of these two teams, big man, I guess at times kind of struggle. Virginia's at home. I don't know if I want anything to do with them. Are you liking anything in Charlottesville?
Yeah, I mentioned this last week to you, Drew. Virginia played on a Friday night. I mentioned it to you then. I'm going to mention it to you now. If you are putting totals in the 40s with Virginia, you need to be betting the over. Okay, this team, they are a good over team, and I'll tell you why. There are 2 things, one of which they cannot stop anybody. Okay, and that's been proven time and time and time again. They made JMU look like USC offensively. This team just isn't good on the defensive end. And the one thing that I like about Virginia, Drew, is they've discovered a quarterback, this kid Calandria, and I'm going to keep saying his name. You look at last week, he had 3 interceptions, which I think sometimes interceptions help the over, particularly in Virginia's case.
Sure.
He threw for almost 270 yards. They threw 14 points on the board. The problem with them is, Drew, they don't stop anybody. So they're going to give up 35, 40 points a game. You put 14 on the board. That is going to take these numbers over the total. I don't think NC State has much trouble scoring the football. Brennan Armstrong, we know he can throw the ball, and he's playing his old team here. You're going to think that he's going to want to get some kind of up and down on them a little bit. I look at this game, I'll keep kind of throwing out that Virginia in the 40s, I think you got to play the over with them because this Calandria kid can move the ball.
I like the breakdown, big man. And yeah, sure enough, 3 straight overs out the gate this year. You bring up the point, it's almost like kind of judging these quarterbacks. If they turn the ball over, but they're taking chances, that could be a good thing for the over. So I love that read.
And in this case, when you look at a team like Virginia, okay, I'm not saying they don't move the ball, but a lot of the time they're in their end, right? They're on their 20, they're on their 30. You throw an interception, that's going to help the opposite team, which is a better team. I just look at him and I think he's a quality. Look, do I think he's a top-level quarterback? No, Calandria, but he's much more opportunistic. He has more ability than the other kids. So, yeah, I think they're an over team that no one's caught up with yet.
Love that look, big man. Yeah, 3-0 to the over. That is the Wahoos of Virginia. We got Boise State and San Diego State up next. So the 4 games on Friday, we get 7:30 Eastern kicks, and then 2 10:30 p.m. Eastern kicks. So we'll slated action here with Boise State and San Diego State up next. Interesting handicap here, big man. -7. That is the Broncos as the road favorite, 45 being the total. I believe it's Snapdragon Stadium there, the new one from last year in San Diego. You like it anything in the Mountain West?
It's a nice call by you on the name of the stadium. Look, I'm going to keep putting it out there. This Boise State team is not good on defense, and they just aren't. I mean, they're not good against the run. They're not good against the pass. San Diego State's looked a little bit more kind of passing like this year. They're actually top 50 in passing play percentage, which is kind of surprising to me. I wonder how good Boise is. Look, I respect Taylon Green. I thought he's looked really good at times as a quarterback there. This number's come down significantly. It was up above 7, then it hit 7. Now it's down to 6.5. Pretty interesting move, Drew. As you know, whenever you can move through 7, that's definitely an interesting move. All the early money, which is being bet on this game, has come in on the San Diego State Aztecs, who've actually won 2 of the last 3 in this series. Now, I will throw this out. Those are better San Diego State teams. However, you know better than me, Drew, that up until like right now, the only people betting on college football are people like you and me and people smarter than us. The public is not coming in and betting these games at this point, especially a game like this. It's not exactly a stone cold matchup that people want to see. So for me, I still look at San Diego State and still feel like they're pretty good defensively. If I can get north of a touchdown, I would lean on the Aztecs as a home dog. I don't know that Boise State's that good, especially with this defense.
I'm with you. I had the Aztecs circled here. Boise State, I'm not sold on them either. I mean, they struggle with UCF at home, and they were wearing their blue uniforms on the blue turf. Didn't think they were allowed to do that, but still,
Yeah,
you see it.
that's an interesting point by you. I often watch some of these games and I look at the color coordinations and they drive me nuts. Like I don't understand. I'll just throw in, look, if this Maiden, who, look, he is not a great quarterback from a throwing standpoint, if he can make some throws in this game, Boise State, I mean, I know they played Washington, but their pass defense has been bad and they're giving up almost 6 yards a carry. That is not a normal Boise State defense. Avalos' team looks, quite frankly, pretty bad on the defensive end.
Yeah, I almost think the Aztecs need to run this kid Maiden more. He got scholarship offers from like Alabama and Georgia, and I feel like they need to just put the ball in his hands and say, like, run with it, But hey, yeah, we'll see what happens on Friday. Shout out to Paco Healy in the chat box on YouTube. Every game on the board, guys. What's up, Paco? He's like in Aztecs on the money line, so just lay it there with the home team. We got Air Force and San Jose State up next, big man. And this was one I'm waiting to talk with you on. Of course, the last game on the board here, 10:30 Eastern. Air Force at San Jose State, -4 in the hook. That's the Falcons as the road favorite. 46.5 being the total. And big man, you're our military academy aficionado here. I want to lay it with Air Force, but I wanted to talk to you first, man. What are we doing?
Yeah, we looked back to last week, Drew. One of the games I didn't quite understand the number was Army. I didn't understand why they were getting so many points against a backup-led UTSA who hasn't looked good at all, even with Frank Harris, and they won the game quite easily. This is a game, Drew, I bet Penn State on Monday last week. This is a game I bet right out of the gate. I'm going to make that very clear. I laid 3.5 here. I really like Air Force in this game. Couple of reasons. Okay. When I like a military school, I don't really make any bones about it. I play it right away. I get involved right away, and I rock with it right away. Because generally, if my opinion on the military school is that I'm interested, I'm going with it. And you look at Air Force, this team looks very similar to the team last season. Now, I don't think they're as good on offense, but I think they're good enough on offense. They have run the football per usual. They're one of the top rushing teams in the country. And what I like to do, Drew, every Sunday and Monday morning is I like to look back at what I saw the week before. And the Toledo Rockets absolutely destroyed San Jose State on the ground. They had almost 240 yards on the ground. They gave up almost 7 yards a carry. This San Jose State team, I think, has shown time and time again they are not good against quality offenses. And I'll keep saying it. I think Air Force is a top 10 defense yet again. This defense is nasty. I think Chevron Cordero is a quality player, but this is a really, really, really tough defense. And this is a good Air Force team. I think they get the job done here. I thought this number was a little too low, quite honestly.
I like the breakdown.
Up for a reason.
Yeah, I like the breakdown there, big man. You think Air Force wins the Mountain West?
Yeah, I think they're in the running for it. I mean, I think they're always well coached. They're so disciplined. When you look around this division, those normal good football teams, they're not necessarily there anymore, right? I mean, Fresno's down this year. I think, San Diego State's down. Boise's down. I'll say a team to keep an eye on. I'm just going to keep kind of throwing them out. I don't know if they could actually win this conference, but they're going to put a scare in a lot of teams. UNLV, I think they're really interesting. Colorado State needs to get healthy, but yeah, I think Air Force is surely the best team in the Mountain West right now.
Yeah, good point on UNLV. I mean, they just beat an SEC team in Vanderbilt, so you don't want to count them out.
Drew, I'm going to keep saying it. Why is Vanderbilt being listed as a favorite? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm blown away by it.
I thought they were going to be better this year. I've taken a loss on them, to a couple losses already, big man. Very frustrating. And I don't think they're going to be the favorite anymore, actually. It's all SEC teams the rest of the way. So
it's not, plus they were laying 5 in Vegas. Explain that. I don't get it.
I really thought they'd just be able to like kind of push them up front,
They're not good. They're, just because the coach comes out and says, we're good and better. That's cool. I love the positive reinforcement. But, Drew, sometimes, you have to admit what you are, okay? Like me, when I was fat, I was 340 pounds. I was out of control. And I needed to acknowledge that fact. If I'm shooting heroin, It's bad for me, and I've got to admit I've got a problem. I mean, there's a lot of things we have to admit, and when we're not a good football team, we need to make that clear. Not telling your kids you need to call them out. They're just not good. Sorry.
Sometimes it's almost like human nature, though. You want to say what you believe in your own head, even if it's not true.
The world is a cold, callous, and dark place, Drew. If we continue to tell people things they shouldn't hear, eventually it's going to catch up to them.
Hey, there's some good things in this world, and one of them being every game on the board with Jeff Nadu, guys.
Exactly right.
We get to talk college football from a betting perspective. What else would you want? If you're liking the content, smash that like button, guys. And hey, grab a Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com, proud sponsor of the podcast. Check them out, guys. It is 4.5% ABV and 0 sugar. So if you don't like getting hangovers and you like tequila, Viva Tequila Seltzer is for you. vivatequilaseltzer.com.
I just got my Viva Tequila, and we're going to do a taste test next week. I've got it cold in my fridge, Drew. I promise we'll do it. That is a key. If you do not want to get hungover, and I can talk about this vividly because I've done it, stay away from the sugar.
Yes.
Tequila is got no sugar, no carbs, goes down clear. I recommend.
Awesome, Jeff. Good to hear. And yeah, I agree. It took me a good 5 years of drinking and not realizing it. And then one day I put 2 and 2 together. It was a life changer. Yeah. You want to watch the sugar when you're drinking alcohol.
I'll vividly remember that one night about 2 months ago where the girls I was with wanted champagne and it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Wasn't good.
If you're ever at a wedding, like the champagne, you toast to be polite, you take one sip, and then that's usually when I put it down. I'll give it to a friend.
Yeah, I usually put it up to my mouth and pretend I'm drinking it, and then not drink it anymore.
That stuff will do you dirty. We got a Saturday card here, guys, as we've hit the weekday action. So we're going to hit the top of the Saturday card here at Jeff Nadu on Twitter. Every Game on the Board podcast. We got Georgia Tech and Wake Forest, a high IQ. Great matchup here. I mean, in the ACC, I was actually looking to bet on Georgia Tech. I think they're improved, but yet Wake Forest is pretty good, big man. Demon Deacons -3 in the hook or -4, mostly -4s, 60 being the total. We like it anything in the ACC?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on the level of Georgia Tech. I kind of feel like they're a bit better, but then again, I also realize, well, wait, maybe they're not. And I'll relate this back to Vandy. I think a lot of people, they did beat Hawaii. And then in week 2, I think they were playing Wake. They were getting like 12, 13 points or around 10 maybe even. And everyone was saying, oh, Vandy's improved, Vandy's improved. And Wake comes in, mollywops them. And I think that's my issue with Georgia Tech. I still, when you look at their stats, they're still not getting stops defensively. They're still a team that can put points on the board, but do you really trust them to put points on the board? They've been a good over team, and I think that's something we need to keep an eye on. With an improved offense, if they can add 20, 24 points in a game like they did last week, which I think they will, because Haynes King is an upgrade over Jeff Sims and guys like that they've had in years past. So I think they're kind of becoming a bit like Virginia in a way. Can't stop anybody, but they can score a little bit. I like and again, I'm going to keep saying this. These are the kind of overs you want to look towards. Trying to find, smaller, necessarily like 60 or under totals where you have a team that's going to move the ball like Wake and a quarterback that could give you, 20, 24 points. It's going to put a game over the total. I think that's kind of the way you go in this game.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's only 60 as the total. I agree with you.
And Drew, real quick, keep in mind, through 3 games, Wake Forest is 5th in America in plays per game. They're running over 80 plays per game. So, they're going to add a little bit of pace to this, which is what you want. Georgia Tech, Drew, 8th in America in plays per game. They're running at about 81 plays. So you're going to have some pace in this game. I think that's why this total is 60.5.
Great point there, big man. We got Miami and Temple up next. I know you know this Temple program, and we got Smoky Steam bets in the chat box. Feel free to chime in, guys, if you're watching on YouTube. Every Game on the Board. Confused by this Temple money this week. Miami with a bye on deck feels like a smackdown spot for them. Miami has looked good at times out the gate here, big man, but laying 24, big number on the road, 49 being the total. You liking anything in this one?
Well, I'll just throw this out. I mean, it's important for anyone that's not from this area, understand that Temple University does not play on their campus. Temple University is in the middle of North Philadelphia. There is no campus. There's a campus, but there's no campus football field. They have to go from North Philadelphia, which is way up, whole way down Broad Street to the bottom of Broad Street and play at Lincoln Financial Field, which is where the Eagles play. No one will be at this game. So it's a very monotone atmosphere. There's no nothing, right? It's not one of those typical home atmospheres. It's one of the worst in football, quite honestly. I think for Miami, this is a business trip. Airport's right down by the stadium. You go up there, you get the job done, and they should take care of business. This is a Temple team that get absolutely dominated by a Rutgers, not Michigan or Ohio State. Rutgers. Temple didn't even have 300 yards in that game. I think if you're Miami, the only question is, are they maybe just taking their eye off the ball and looking towards the bye week? But as the chat box said, it's not like they have a game even after that. They got Georgia Tech on deck. I think this is all but just focus, and you're going to Philly. You're not going to LA or Florida. You're going to a fall-like atmosphere against a bad team. This should be a spot where Miami should be focused. And I agree. I would, if I'm under 24 here, I'd buy in on Miami here. Temple's pretty bad.
Big man, next game up, we got 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific kick, 319, 320, Army and Syracuse. We're seeing the Orange minus 13.5 home favorites, 51.5 being the total. Our military academy aficionado, we get another one here, big man. What are we doing with the Black Knights?
So Army, remember, have an extra day. They had to go down to UTSA. Now they're back. Now they're going to go to Syracuse. Should be up for this game. Here's my issue, though. When you look at Rocky Long, who is, I believe, the defensive coordinator at Syracuse, he was out at San Diego State. He's faced the triple option before and has done a pretty good job in his prep on the military schools. I think this is kind of goating people into taking Army. I think Army just kind of lucked out last week with the fact that they were facing a freshman quarterback. They jumped out quickly to a lead in that game, Drew, and then quickly lost the lead. I think they were able to connect a little bit, and they're running a weird offense this year, Army. And that's where I think in this game, it's kind of also interesting because they're not running the triple option. They're running this kind of like, I don't even know what offense it is. It's kind of like a pistol type of offense. It's a little bit more up tempo. I'm not going to be playing this game. Something tells me, though, that Syracuse is just much better than Army. Garrett Schrader's the real deal. That's a real defense there, Syracuse. I lean with the Cuse here personally, anything under 14. I think this is like a 34-17 type of game. I think it'll be right around the number, but something tells me Cuse in the dome, they kind of dominate that Army offense.
I could see it. And you started off there. Which coach has experience with the option, you were saying?
Rocky Long.
Okay.
He's a defensive coordinator, Cuse.
Yeah, that's a great point. Always playing up against Air Force. I love that matchup, being used to getting the guys ready to stop the option principles. I do believe there's something to that. 3:30 Eastern, Texas.
Hey, Drew?
Yeah.
One final point. Just if you're concerned about laying the number, Syracuse, I've noticed over the last, let's say, year or two, they have been very good in this role as a favorite. They've covered 8 of 10 as a favorite, 4 of the last 5. Been really good in this role. I bet them a lot last year. I'm not real interested in them against really good competition, but in this case, against a team that this is not a great Army team. Again, I cover these 3 military schools in and out. This is not a very good Army team like they've had in the last 3 or so years. I think this is a good spot for the Cubes.
Like it, big man. We got next game up, Big 12, Texas Tech and West Virginia, 55 being the total. -6. That's the Red Raiders on the road.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you look in previous, let's just say the last 2 seasons, West Virginia has really struggled to step up here against kind of a more prolific offense. They've had major trouble in this game kind of throughout the last few. And I think that's kind of where I'd go in this. Texas Tech has always been a difficult team to back from a favorite standpoint for me, just because, again, they generally struggle to get stops. I think West Virginia's improved. We have to remember last week They were facing a bitter rival at home. This is kind of a bit of a step up. That game's over now. Now you got to go face a really good offense. Pitt's not great. This Texas Tech group, I won't be betting this game because I've had just a really awful experience with Texas Tech. Backing them against Oregon was one of the worst beats I've had in a long time. And Drew, I'll relate it to going out. I was at a cigar bar that I go to, and I had a few drinks, and I was going to this spot that I go to, and I'm literally walking there, and I'm watching this happen, and I refresh it, and I say, how did I not? How? I don't get it. It was just a rough one. And as one of the chat folks are saying, Sarah's saying, I think their quarterback's out, Garrett Green. So I would stay away from WVU. I'd lean only Tech here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it is a tough place to play, but I'm with you. This Red Raiders team might be pretty good, and laying under a touchdown, market liking it as well. And yeah, thanks for chiming in here, Sarah, on Facebook. West Virginia starting their backup this week. So that's a great point, Sarah. We'll move down the line here. Virginia Tech and Marshall, big man. Early kick again, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thundering Herd -5 at home, 41 being the total. Anything Virginia Tech and Marshall?
I don't have much. Marshall's off a bye. They're a group that I think kind of really focused and got going against ECU. Didn't look good in the first two games. I mean, when was the last time? We don't see this very often. A Conference USA team is a favorite against an ACC team. Mm-hmm. But I think that really goes to show you how bad groups like Virginia and Virginia Tech are. Marshall should be ready to go here. As I said, off the bye, plenty of rest. I thought they looked really good defensively against ECU. But again, that's ECU. ECU is not a good offensive team. But I think neither is Virginia Tech. I don't have much here. Lean Marshall, but I won't be playing this one.
Next one up, UAB, Trent Dilfer bringing the Blazers in between the hedges to take on the back-to-back national champion in the Georgia Bulldogs. Laying 42, though. Big number here. I don't know if they're going to look to really run it up on UAB. 54 being the total. Kind of a tough handicap, big man. Do you like anything in Athens?
Yeah, it is a tough handicap. I guess UAB will be looking to do what kind of South Florida did last week and just kind of hang in the game. Here's what I'll say about UAB. They have gotten destroyed in the passing game from other teams already this year. I think their only hope is that they can come through the back door because they throw the football a lot. Trent Dilfer, it's no secret. He wants to throw the ball. They're top 20 in passing play percentage. So I think their goal here is to just kind of maybe come through the back door. They're not going to win this game. Listen, this is a group that give up 49 to Georgia Southern and 41 to UL Lafayette. Neither team is a vintage team of old. Georgia might have some fun here. I'd be surprised if they don't get to 50, especially off a bad performance against South Carolina. I think the one issue that I have with Georgia and how it's tough to lay big numbers with them is they have not seemingly been real, I think, worried about these games. They're a bit bored, I think. I do a show every week, Drew, with Peter Loshak, and he had mentioned to me in that game against Ball State, just playing the first half, you're kind of getting involved, getting out of the way. That's probably how I'd look at this game. I think UAB is going to have a lot of trouble offensively. Georgia might score every time they have the ball. Or, sorry, defensively. Georgia might have some trouble when they have the ball.
Okay, yeah, big man. And I'll just add on, Kirby Smart, their head coach, they've already won back-to-back nationally. They have no reason to really run it up. He's a defensive guy anyway. I think with these big numbers, that's something to kind of watch.
That's a great point, because I think when you look at college football right now and someone says to you, who is the best team in the country? Okay. I mean, Georgia's going to be the number one pick, right?
They have the best players, I would say.
But what I'm saying is all Georgia has to do is win games. I agree with you. If you win 45-3 or 51-10, it really doesn't matter. If you win 37 of it, no one cares, right? But I do know that in these types of games, I'm always going to kind of look first half here. You figure this game's 42 full game. It's probably going to be around 24 first half. You just kind of hope that they're up 30 and they can pull everybody and focus on the next game. But this is the last non-conference game for the Georgia Bulldogs for a period of time. They've got a couple of games on deck, but nothing overly looking forward to as far as look ahead. It's not Alabama or something.
at Jeff Nadu on Twitter, the big man on campus, breaking down every game on the board. Part number one here as we move down the list. 327, 328, 330 Eastern kick. New Mexico, the Lobos going almost full way across the country, taking on UMass, the Minutemen. I like UMass here. I think this is a tough trip. I think UMass a little bit underrated, big man. There is still a couple -3s out there, mostly -3 in the hooks. That's UMass is the home favorite, 49 being the total. UMass hasn't been a favorite very often, big man, but I think there's a reason why. You like anything in this one?
Yeah, so Drew, I have a Patreon account, and I think a lot of my patrons last week were a bit surprised to see that one of my top plays was UMass, +7.5 against EMU. And look, I think, if not for 3 turnovers from their quarterback, Carlton Davis, they'd have won the game. It was 19-17, and they covered. I agree with you. I think if you're going to get UMass in a dog roll against teams like this, I think you got to play them. I'm surprised to see them, in a dog roll against New Mexico. This is not a very good New Mexico.
They're -3.5.
Yeah, sorry. Either way, a small favorite or a dog against New Mexico. I have some interest probably. I don't really love UMass as a favorite. I'd more rather take them as a dog. But yeah, they're a better offense this year. They've improved on defense. Their coach is Don Brown, which he used to be at Michigan as a defensive coordinator. He's a defensive guy. UMass is definitely improved. I mean, they had 464 yards last week, Drew. Outgained EMU by about 100 yards. Problem is, had 4 turnovers. Can't have that happen and win games. If they did not turn the ball over, they'd have won easily.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the turnovers were killing them. They have jumped up here. I mean, open pick them nearly. Now it's as high as -3.5.
You kind of missed out on this number. It's not. I was told very long ago by people that are very sharp in the gambling world, don't put money on bad teams. And look, for as good as UMass has been and better that they've been, they're a team you should be betting as a dog, not as a favorite.
Heading to the SEC up next, Mississippi State and South Carolina. Gamecocks -6.5 in Columbia, 48.5 being the total. Prime time 7:30. You liking anything in the SEC matchup?
Can't say I do. These are games that I'm always just kind of real lukewarm on. I haven't been impressed at all by South Carolina. They've looked kind of lost. Spencer Rattler's back to being just kind of, average, I guess. Mississippi State, I will say, I was surprised kind of by their performance last week. I thought they'd be a lot more kind of in that game against LSU, but Will Rogers, I think, should stop worrying about Snapchat and trying to pick up women on Snapchat and focus a little bit more on his game. 11 for 28, 103 yards. I think what it showed us is LSU's defense is probably back to normal. They had some tough games early on, but Will Rogers needs to get out of the social media. 107 passing yards in that game total. They only ran 50 plays compared to 76 for LSU. Just a real whitewash, to be fair. Two teams that are just kind of underwhelming for me.
What was he doing on social media? I missed that.
I will say, for him, he should be smarter than this, but I'm going to keep saying this. If you are a person at any age, I don't care what age you are, 19 or 40, sharing personal conversations is a whack move. And in some cases, it's illegal. These people that get into conversations with quasi-famous people and then take private conversations and put them on the internet are filth. And the person that did this is wrong. However, he needs to be a little bit more careful. I guess he was talking with a girl and he was trying to set up a meeting with her because he knew he was coming to her city. Very veteran move, by the way. If you're going to a city, you should always plan ahead and help yourself a little bit to the stock in the area.
Pro tip, yeah.
Right. But again, that is a weak move. You shouldn't be doing that. You kind of feel bad for him a little bit. He's just trying to have some fun. It doesn't help him, though, that on his social media accounts, he has like Bible verses in his biography. Not a great look, Will Rogers. Plus, you didn't play well against LSU. Fix up.
Yeah, I've always thought that too. Big. Some people will you're texting them and then they'll screenshot the text and put it in like another group text, and you're like, bro, that was between me and you. Like, that's kind of
Absolutely,
a slap in the face. Like,
just totally filthy behavior.
yeah.
I think it again, and people really need to watch that because that is a criminal offense if certain conversations are put out. And I'll tell you what, I think if you have any sort of like if you're a quarterback in college or something like that, or someone that has some sort of notoriety, any woman you're around or man, you should be signing NDAs. I think you got to protect yourself nowadays. And shout out to the people that do that. Very smart.
Big man, we got a couple games left here. BC and Louisville, 3:30 Eastern, 54 being the total, minus 13 in the hook, minus 14, pretty much a split line here. That's the Cardinal in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, you got to wonder about BC. Where's their head at here? I mean, if you don't have 18 penalties against Florida State, you probably win the game, right? I mean, that just can't happen. And we saw and thought that, maybe Florida State was looking ahead a little bit. You have to wonder, does BC kind of come back here and get beat up a little bit? But I wonder, I mean, Louisville, and I credit my friend Ryan. He contacted me last week. He said he loved Indiana against Louisville. And I thought, I don't really want to get involved there. And Indiana hung around, played real well in that game. I'm kind of conflicted on both sides here. I feel like this is a spot for Louisville to kind of flex their muscles and win by 2+ touchdowns. But I'm also not really interested in Louisville right now either. I don't really want to lay double digits with them. So for me, it's kind of a stay away. I'm avoiding this one.
2 games left, big man. Akron, the Zips at Indiana, aforementioned Hoosiers, minus 17. 46.5 being the total in Bloomington. Do you want to lay the number against the MAC team with Indiana?
Yes, I would lay the number with Indiana if I had to here. I've said time and time again about MAC against Power 5. Now, look, I know Indiana's not great, but Akron getting 10 points with this team on a weekly basis is, I think, a win. I don't know who their quarterback is on a weekly basis. It's either DJ Irons or the other guy. But, Drew, what'd you say the number was here?
It is 13.5 at most shops.
It's thought it'd be higher. I would have said 17. This one I missed.
Oh, actually, yeah, I'm sorry. I misread that. It's 17. I was looking at the other one.
Shows how good I am at this. No, I would still probably lead on laying it. I wouldn't be taking points here. 17 maybe even seems a bit low. I could see this, 27-7, 31-10, something like that. I think Indiana's getting there. They're improving. They're decently coached still. And Akron's Akron. Akron, as I've said before, Drew, I think them and Kent State are 2 of the worst teams in the country.
Stay away from them, maybe, guys, as we're going to end it with a big one. Florida State and Clemson, 335-336, kicking us off on Saturday, 12 noon Eastern. Was a pick-em, -1. Now we're seeing it as high as -2. That's the Noles as the road favorite here, big man. 55 being the total ACC matchup, Florida State at Clemson. Are you liking anything in Clemson, South Carolina?
Florida State, you mean? I think you said Clemson, South Carolina. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I believe. Well, it's Florida State at
in Clemson,
South Carolina. Yeah.
Is Clemson a town? I didn't know.
It is a town, I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong out there, guys, but I'm pretty sure.
Why did I think that was in like another city? You're right then. My apologies. Yeah, I like the dog here. Give me the home dog. And this is a test, Florida State. This is your opportunity because, Drew, I talk about college football. I got 4 or 5 questions about this team today when I talked about them. Florida State, it's time to do what Texas did. Texas wanted to be taken seriously. So you know what they did? They went out and beat Alabama. You want to be taken seriously? You've already beaten LSU. We know you're good. But last week you looked like hell, okay? You're looking ahead. I get it. But you're looking ahead, so you should go out and win the game. Clemson's still good. They've quietly put up some big offensive performances against teams they should beat up. They have a circle around this game too. I think this probably decides this conference. This is a big game, man. Clemson's already behind the 8 ball. It's obviously they have the advantage of quarterback Florida State, but I think Clemson's great on the ground. They're good on defense. They're at home here. They want to right the wrongs of week 1, okay? If you're going to give me Clemson as a dog here, I'd probably bite one more time with Dabo and the boys. And look, I don't love Jordan Travis against really good teams or quality opponents. I just think sometimes he kind of struggles. I'm going to lean on Clemson if you're going to give me a dog price.
Fair enough, big man. Great breakdowns here in the leadoff role. Big man, want to ask you, is there any final thoughts here before we shut this down? Where can people reach you? You know, what you got going on content-wise? And do you have a most confident pick on the board?
Yeah, as always, you can find me on Twitter at Jeff Nadu. As far as a play that I would bet, I feel like I've done pretty well with these. I'm going to a game that I think is going to be pretty bet heavily. Colorado, Oregon. I'm going over the total here. Look, if this is 31-24, so be it. I'm just not going to not target this game. When you look at Colorado, it really hasn't mattered who they played. They just don't stop anybody on the ground or against the pass. Bo Nix has quietly been very good in his sparkling quarterback conference. We know Colorado can move the ball against anybody, and I forgot where Oregon became a good defense. I don't really know that I recognize that. Look, I know Travis Hunter's out on offense, but they still have plenty of weapons. And on defense, this is a defense, regardless of whether he's played or not, that's not been good. Oregon should move up and down the field. Wouldn't be surprising if they get to 50 here. I think Colorado probably gets humbled a little bit. I had this one like 51-31, 52-27. I think 70.5 is too low, and I think that's one of the reasons you're seeing this being bet up. Sharp money likes the over. I will say one final thing on this game, Drew. In the first 3 games, Colorado's been bet by sharp money, and it's been pretty on point. I've noticed this week they are betting against Colorado. Something tells me Deion's boys maybe get to like 27, but they really have trouble getting stops here. I think Oregon has a big day offensively.
At Jeff Nadu on Twitter. Jeff, we got Colorado, Oregon over 70s, the low water mark right now at Bet Online. So that's what we got it at. Following up that Penn State best bet. He's been knocking them out of the park here on every game on the board. Check him out. He's got the podcast, The Sit Down. If you like mob stories, you like cartel stories down south of the border, he's got you covered there. He obviously knows his sports betting, college football. At Jeff Nadu on Twitter. Jeff, anything else, man?
That's it. Always appreciate having you, Drew. Always good to do this show on a Wednesday. We'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys. Check out Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Jeff will do a taste test next week. Yep. We'll rate it, so don't miss that, guys. 2 o'clock, same time, same place. Come back and join us. Thanks for tuning in. Smash that like button. Leave a comment below, guys, and cash those tickets.